So I don't even know if they get the show there in Canada, Sammy. So at the end of NFL Fantasy Live this year, they did some cockamamie contest that, they tend to do. And it was a winner picks the wardrobe type of thing. And I'm like, all right. So I go in this morning, go to see if my wardrobe is there. Like my wardrobe is the usual, like nothing major. I'm like, okay, maybe they're not doing it. But then you could tell everybody was harboring a deep secret. And they're like, oh, and you can hear the whispering and the scuttlebutt. So I guess what the thing was, something that I lost, whatever. And Michael F. was like, hey, here's something you get to wear. And it's like, oh God, don't be a Packers jersey. And not only is it a Packers jersey, it's a Aaron Rodgers jersey, which I fling to the side. And then he brings it back. And like, what? Like he's got this wide-eyed look like, what are you doing? This isn't this. And I'm like, nah, dude, I'm not wearing I just took it out and I'm like, I'm not wearing this. Boom. Threw it away. I did ask the producers. I'm like, was there anybody in the room that thought I was going to wear an Aaron Rodgers jersey? Like, did anybody think, like, if I was ever going to do something like that, I would at least do it in an effort. I would like team up with like Tom Grossi or somebody and be like, make it a charity thing, at least get some money out of it. It's like the old WWE adage, like, hey, I'm not going to give this away for free on television. Somebody's going to have to pay to see this. And so in any event, I didn't do it. And I'm not going to do it. I could be as down on the Bears as possible. And I got to admit to you right now that I don't think that I've ever been so morose about the Chicago Bears. I'm still not doing that. I'm still not going to put on a Green Bay Packer. I'm not even wearing Bears stuff right now, but I won't put on a Packers jersey because that's just not going to happen. That's not the way that I roll. They knew better. The producers knew. Everybody except for Michael F., I think, knew. But in any event, Sammy, let's go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Adam Rank.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
Brought to you by Circa Sports Illinois, the sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to the weekend edition of the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank. It is Green Bay Packers week, normally a time where we're celebrating or at least looking at a game with some sort of optimism, and I tried to really get into this matchup for this week. There really isn't too much going on now. I came out this week and said that Caleb Williams should end up sitting. Like, I wouldn't even play him. And I'm not going to be one of these delusional people because I saw something like this on the internet where somebody's like, hey, what would our record be if Tyson Bagent was our quarterback? And I'm like, 4-12, 3-13. I don't know. You can't think that Caleb Williams is the problem. There's no rational explanation for that. Caleb Williams has done about as well, given the circumstance, as could be expected. And as people sit here and they want to dap up Drake May and Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix has been playing really well. Some of the other guys, I feel like there's another one. Who am I missing? Jaden, Bo Nix, Drake May. Is there another rookie quarterback? Who am I not thinking of? Anthony Richardson. But any event, they're not giving a lot of love for Caleb Williams. And the way the season has unfolded, it's somewhat understandable. I will tell you, though, and this is the thing, and I know that I've repeated this so many times, that this Bears team, I was talking to a group on the BBC on Friday, and they're like, give us something positive to look at for the Chicago Bears. And I go, number one, Caleb Williams is the guy. So much so, I'm willing to go to Windy City Sports Cards right now and get as much inventory as possible. That's right. Windy City Sports Cards has all of your Chicago needs covered, whether you are a fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Sky, whomever. Windy City Sports Cards has you covered with a wide variety of items, including sports cards, memorabilia, autographs, all that good stuff. And to be quite honest with you, you don't even need to be a fan of the Chicago Bears or Chicago Athletics. Not like Chicago A's, but I mean Chicago sports in general. to enjoy the fruits of Windy City Sports Cards' labor. They've got a wide variety of items that you can go through and sort through and all that stuff. Listen, if you want to find some hard to find Macho Man, Randy Savage items, if you want to find something from Ted Lasso, Windy City Sports Cards has got you covered. Go check them out. Windy City Sports Cards. We cannot thank them enough for their encouragement and their sponsorship this season. Love Mike and everything that he does at Windy City Sports Cards. Now, Caleb Williams is not the issue. And I was telling the BBC that, look, after that London game, and I don't know what happened in London, who did what in London, 4-2. And again, a point that everybody seems to miss is that 20 some odd seconds away from being 5-2, the year would have been incredibly different. And the one thing that I want to point out is that everybody who thinks that we're decades away, this isn't baseball. This isn't, when you watch baseball, like typically there's no surprise teams in baseball. Like last year, if you're kind of a casual, as they say, you might not have seen the rise of the Baltimore Orioles, but anybody who follows the sport knows that, the Orioles had been fortifying their farm system for quite some time, and we're eventually going to put it together. And so for me, that's not too big of that's really not like you see that happening with the NFL. And I will continue to point to two teams where it's the Washington Commanders, who were the second worst team last year, almost got the number 1 overall selection. And I've seen some people talk about this too, like, hey, bet you wish you had Jaden Daniels. You're like, really? What do you think Jaden Daniels would have done behind our offensive line? Not much. No, so I don't wish that at all. But this is a team that was able to turn it around because coaching and the culture changed. The San Diego Chargers turned everything around because the coaching and the culture changed. That's the task right now for the Chicago Bears. And it'll be interesting to see the way that this plays out in the next couple of weeks. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go too deep into this right now because we'll have a wrap-up show on Sunday evening, Monday morning. There'll be some firings. We'll start to see the jigsaw puzzle starting to work itself out. Now, one of the guys that I've been championing, Mike Vrabel, had an interview with the Jets this week, which I don't think he would go to the Jets. I had one NFL source tell me Mike Vrabel would burn that building to the ground, not literally, but he wouldn't be able to work in the dysfunction, which is absolutely the truth. They also have indicated to me that Mike Vrabel on the short list for the Las Vegas Raiders, and there's a lot of mutual interest. So anybody who's really, keeping tabs on this, feels like Vrabel's the early money is to go to the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Ben Johnson, all Chicago fans are rooting for Ben Johnson. Oh, Ben Johnson needs to go to Chicago. And depending on who you're listening to, there seems to be interest that Ben Johnson wants to come to Chicago. Mark Brunell's best friend's cousin's daughter thinks that Ben Johnson is going to Jacksonville. So I really don't want to speculate about it too much because there's nothing you can do. Nobody knows. I will say that it's going to be interesting because there are reports that Ben Johnson wants to come to Chicago, but wants to have his guy be the general manager. Ryan Poles apparently wants to keep his job, wants to be the general manager of the Chicago Bears, and is pushing for somebody like Brian Flores. Now, there is a part of me that just already sort of resigned myself to the fact that Brian Flores will be the next coach of the Chicago Bears. It makes way too much sense. Brian Flores, defensive-minded guy. He's got a history with Ryan Poles. He's got a history with the Minnesota Vikings where Kevin Warren has come in from. I understand that his early returns with the Miami Dolphins were not great. Tua Tagovailoa did not care for Brian Flores, but I do believe that some of these coaches are humbled a bit after they get fired or they go through what they go through. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Brian Flores because honestly, this dude is a mastermind with the defense. And I would honestly, I know that I was a Vrabel guy. I don't hate the idea of Brian Flores as much as a lot of other people. And I would even say this, that if Brian Flores comes in and brings in Brian Dable, who again, we'll see if he ends up getting fired. He brings in Brian Dable. And then all of a sudden, you have somebody who will watch over Caleb Williams. Brian Flores goes over, works on the culture, works on the defense. Brian Dable tries to get Caleb Williams up to speed. Also, one other interesting thing too, like if Brian Flores was fired, or whomever they bring in, and I know a lot of people are like, what about Joe Brady as head coach, which I don't necessarily love. He gives off a lot of Adam Gase vibes to me. Some of the things that I've heard about him, he doesn't do a lot of self-scouting. A lot of what he's doing is the benefit of Josh Allen, so I'll save a little bit right there. Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. I don't know, because if there is an early exit for the Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott could be out, which means an entirely new coaching staff in Buffalo. But there is so much to go on. There's actually some games this weekend. So why don't we get to it, Sammy, with the Sick Picks?
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Circa Sports Illinois.
The Sick Picks are brought to you by Circa Sports. That's right, the world's largest sports book in Las Vegas is right at your fingertips with the Circa Sports app. Experience sports betting the way it should be. High betting limits, better money line splits, more in-game betting, and the absolute best customer service. Your new bookie is in town here in Chicago. The Circa Sports app is available for anybody in Illinois to bet anywhere. Get some action on this week's games, and the playoffs are looming. You want to make sure that you download the Circa Sports app and get started today. And there's also a brick and mortar Circa Sports who I want to put this into the air right now. We got to talk to Beverage Dave, who was great the last time he was in here. We got to do our draft. We got to do our draft coverage from there, or Circa's got to take us out to Las Vegas. Either one I will do. But it's time now for the Sick Picks, excuse me. We're going to roll through these. We're not going to spend too much time because there are a lot of games that are already pretty much predetermined. The Ravens are 20-point favorites over the Cleveland Browns. We don't expect to see a lot of Derrick Henry, who is 78 yards shy of passing Tiki Barber for the most rushing yards by a player age 30 or more. But Ravens will win that one. Bengals, Steelers, I'm going to save that one. I'm going to come back to that one. Panthers, Falcons. Give me the Falcons. They're more than a touchdown favorite there. Panthers quarterback Bryce Young is winless in 12 career starts. So I'm going to take the Falcons there. I'm going to take the Cowboys over the Commanders, even though Washington is nearly a one touchdown favorite. Trey Lance might get the start. The Cowboys have an NFL worst minus 116 point margin at home this season. They were excellent last year at home. I picked against the Commanders because it just really pisses off the Commanders fans. They're hilarious. Texans and Titans, who cares? Give me the Titans in that one. It doesn't matter. Houston's not playing for anything. Jags at Colts. Give me the Colts, I guess. Brian Thomas Jr. has 10 touchdowns this season, tied for the second most in Jags history. Our guy, Allen Robinson, had 14 in 2015. We have the Bills and Patriots. Bills locked into their playoff seeding. Give me the Bills. The Bills have had 12 games this season with 30-plus points, tied for the second most in the season. Giants and Eagles. The Eagles are just 3-point favorites. The Eagles are not going to be taking any precautions. I will tell you that I love that the Eagles are going to be sitting down Saquon Barkley. No reason to risk it with him this season. Saints, Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are going to win this one. The Saints have been held below 20 points in 5 consecutive games entering Sunday. My Broncos are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs mostly because nobody wants to see the Bengals in the playoffs. By the way, I'll just go back to that one. The Bengals are going to beat the Steelers. The Steelers are going to limp into the playoffs with a 5-game losing streak. So for everybody who loves Mike Tomlin, and I do, God, that team, what is worse? Chargers, Raiders, who cares? Give me the Raiders, though. in a last fling. Rams over the Seahawks, even though the Seahawks have been eliminated. Dolphins over the Jets, even though it probably is not going to matter. Cardinals, 49ers, who cares? Give me the Cardinals. Everybody knows. Okay, so I took that. I think the only game that I have left is Vikings at Lions. I'm gonna give you like a surprisingly hot take. I think the Vikings are the best team in the NFC. I really do. You know, it's funny because Justin Jefferson's so good. Jordan Addison has been playing tremendously well. I'm a big believer in Sam Darnold, and I think Kevin O'Connell just wins the close games. Kevin O'Connell knows how to win ball games. Have you ever noticed that? I really do believe that the Vikings win this one, end up getting the number 1 overall seed. The Vikings have covered 4 straight games and are 12-4 against the spread this season. Detroit's -3, whatever that means. And finally, Bears, Packers. Gosh dang it. I'm picking the Bears because I always pick the Bears. Listen, you can go out there and see these things online where I make my picks. I never go against the Bears. Even as upset as I am with the Chicago Bears, I'm still going to pick them. There's really nothing left. Like, there's no level of embarrassment that I can have for this team. The secondhand embarrassment that I have with the Chicago Bears. Like, there's nothing else you can do that's going to make me feel worse about the Bears over the next. Like, there's nothing. Until we start getting sorted and figure out who the next coach is, I want to get to that point right now. I wish we were ready to go with our next coach and we would know and all that stuff would be happening, but it's just not the case. But still, give me the Bears to win. Those were the sick picks for this week. Thank you so much for that, Sammy. Now, final note, we will be back sometime Sunday night, Monday morning with a quick wrap-up of the game. Give us some thoughts. Hopefully, maybe we'll see a Tyler Scott touchdown or something like that. Hopefully, somebody stands out. Somebody shows us that they want to play football and want to be a member. And I'm not talking about this by anybody in particular, but like, I want to see somebody step up in this game and do something cool. Please. And if and here's the honest question. If the Bears win this game, and I understand it's the Packers don't really have much to play for. Jordan Love might not play the full game or anything like that. You better believe I'm going to talk ass if the Bears end up winning this game. Because it'd be hilarious to me. But in any event, I'm not expecting anything like that. But we will be back Sunday, Monday. We'll be back sometime on Monday to go through some of the firings. We'll either get a vote of confidence for Ryan Poles, although they could drag this out for a couple of days as they start to continue. Actually, we probably need the Lions to win, which would allow us an opportunity to at least put out some feelers with Ben Johnson. But I do believe that if Ben Johnson is going to end up being the choice, that they've already talked to him. They've kind of worked through the thing. So if Ryan Poles is fired on Monday, I think it's a pretty good indication that Ben Johnson is coming to Chicago. If Ryan Poles is not fired on Monday, I think it means that we're going to get somebody like Liam Cohen if they're going that route, or Brian Flores, who, as I mentioned, has a history with Ryan Poles. So it'll be very interesting. We'll break that down as it goes. I hope I'll be back on CHGO. I've kind of missed a couple ones because of the holiday season. But in any event, I want to thank you, everybody, for being here. Hope your new year was great. Hope your holiday season has been wonderful. It is time for the off season, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it, trying to get a little bit more enthusiasm for the Bears. So until that time, till I see you next time, Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcast. Brought to you by Circa Sports Illinois.